Hi, everyone. This episode, we're further defining the future existence of opportunity, purpose, and full contentedness with moments of bliss that we've coined the better day. I'm Mix Rogers,
And I'm Aaron.
and this is Mix Rogers and the Happiness Factory. Let's get into it. So, my friend Aaron, life be lifin', and I definitely need a real good spoonful of optimism, positivity. I need to really connect with your understanding, your vision of the better day, this existence that's very real. We're on the track for, even though it doesn't feel like it right now. And when we met, what you were able to do when you were just talking about your visions of the better day, I then understood actually what a visionary is. You're able to paint a picture. You're able to take, at least me, when you're talking to me about it, and you set me in the scene, and then you allow my imagination to actually experience and feel what it is you're saying. I'm so curious on what are those initial things that come out for you of what that better day is, and just like that reminder of where this all comes from.
Yeah, sounds good. So, first, let me say that when you call me a visionary, that makes me feel very good, makes me light up inside, brings back memories of my grandfather, who was a intense storyteller, and that's kind of where I think I got it from. But he told all of his like things he told about his day. He'd tell in like long, drawn out stories, and that's kind of what I do too. And I've realized recently.
I love that.
But yeah, so the better day. It is our future, but it definitely, you hit the pin on the head by saying that it does not feel like it even could possibly be the future right now. I mean, for most people, you really have to like get into thinking about it, almost like meditate on the possibility and potential, and for it to even seem like remotely a possibility, because right now it feels like the world is just declining.
Yeah.
Honestly, I would argue it doesn't just feel like the world is declining. The world is declining.
We're crashing. It's crashing and burning really,
yeah.
really quickly. Well, when you brought up a good point there, meditating on what that existence could be. But for someone, I can get there when a visionary is guiding me. But for myself and other individuals who even thinking of another existence until they hear it or see it, that's what I'm grateful that we're going to be able to do, because like being kind to yourself, thinking about the better day is a new language. And with new language, it becomes becoming a beginner, as well as listening and learning and understanding those words that we need to use, which are so powerful. So if you could, what are the first things that come up for you when you think of the better day, and that journey, that quick journey of how you got back here?
Yeah. Okay. That's definitely helpful. So when I think of the better day, first thing I think of is like happiness, like intense happiness, like relief. I think more than happiness, relief. At least, honestly, the relief would have to last forever, given the state of the world right now, and this being where we came from. So that relief would last forever, but we'd build on the relief. We'd build happiness onto that state of relief. So, and to further define happiness, I've used the terms contentedness, which we've talked about. So contentedness with moments of bliss. And to kind of describe that, it would be that everyone is all feeling good, but not just like a baseline permanent good. It's like you feel good, but this moment you might be feeling extra good. This moment you might be feeling extra good in another way. So that's the moments of bliss that I kind of try to bring in to the description of the better day. And to touch on a little bit while it's on the front of my mind, how I got to this understanding of the better day, even in the world that we're in now, which is nothing in resemblance of the better day right now, other than like you take pieces of the world out and you'd be like, oh, okay, that fits. But as a whole, the world is not remotely what it's going to be like.
It's like 7 Goodwill puzzles that have just been like thrown all together in one big pile, and then it's like, okay, go. And you're like, do we even have all the pieces? We don't even have the picture, and now they're all mixed. What do we even do here?
Yeah. To find the better day in the world that we're living in right now, it's taken being in some of the deepest and darkest places, definitely that I've ever been in, and that many people could attest to being just a collective, like, very dark place. And in those places,
if I may, you're referring to those deep dark spaces, especially that, like what we talked about in episode 2, your 8 mental health facility experiences. Are you talking like broadly within those, or just even in general outside of that?
I guess both. So definitely in those is first thing that popped into my head as being like the dark places where I found my understanding of the better day better. But the better day began formulating before I was ever in those places, and I kind of wound up in those. There were psych wards. I wound up in those along my path of trying to bring about the better day without any guidance there's no guidebook to this
yet, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And I think until everyone's on board, we can't even draw up a guidebook. But when everyone's on board, we'll be like, okay, this is how we get there. Because
I feel like we can start. I feel like Better Day Guidebook coming to you 2026. Like, I feel like we can be built, like, we don't have to, because I don't believe that's an actuality. I don't believe that's a reality to get everyone unified and then figuring it out. I do believe that there's going to be core groups of individuals who are ready, who are open, who are going to be the decision makers, right? Like, we think of the whole world's run like a corporation, right? Most corporations are supposed to have board of directors, and in theory that room is supposed to be filled with diverse people. We know that that's not the case at this moment, but imagine these core groups, and I'm actually I'm looking at it, it's like COR, it's like Council of Renewal. We have these core groups all around the world, like they're like able to understand, right? You're in the Netherlands right now, so a core group in the US, fantastic. We can be figuring out what's truly necessary, what is the most urgent things we need to be focusing on and putting resources to, and then what can come right after. But it wouldn't make sense for our core group to have everything that for you being in the Netherlands, right? Like, you're going to have different needs, necessities, and things until we start truly globally unifying our systems that are most likely going to be more looking like what you're going to be experiencing there. But yeah, so having those groups, so I truly believe we're going to be organizing very soon these core groups and really go through, all right, these are the locations that we're in. Here are the top 100 things that need attention and resources right now. And then here are the 100 that come next. And then we prioritize, and then we talk through them. We bring in experts who aren't politicians who studied poli-science talking about the environment, but we're talking to environmentalists who they're not only job and expertises, but their passion. They want to make this change. We don't talk to these decision makers who are not connected to the actual changes that we're trying to do. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I like where you're going, definitely. I'd say that I was kind of conflating the trajectory from the better day, first moment of the better day on, with from now till then. From now till the first moment of the better day.
Got you.
So by saying that all of us unified and then we decide what the better day looks like, that's more like once we get there where we're all unified, then we can decide what the actual better day can look like from then on. But to get to that point where we're all
100%.
actually unified, it does look more like a corporation, like a job, or like a
100%.
But it should definitely, like you're saying, be something that people are passionate about. Otherwise, and I think that comes naturally with it. Like, if you can visualize the better day, it's something that you would want to happen. And I've had conversations with people who see that and they're like, oh yeah, but that's hopeless. Like, that's not going to happen.
Right.
And
100%.
Yeah. So there's different barriers that come for different people in joining the good fight, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
But starting now, it definitely is like rallying a group and then growing that group around the vision, I guess.
Right, around the vision, around the world. You know who I would hire first? All of the diversity, equity, inclusion, DEI leads that work for corporations, especially like tech corporations. Here you go. As soon as I can give you a signed $1 million contract to go first through a burnout recovery program and then get back and get ready and be on this council of renewal, like, sign up. I'm ready. Like, we'll let you know when we're posting, because that's what we're coming. That's who I would hire, because not only do they have their full-time jobs and their full-time lives, then because they're so passionate about these very intense, needed topics to be passionate about, they're doing almost a second, third job, and then dealing not only with what's happening in the world, but then within their communities. And then when you, especially working for a global company, like I've worked for a global tech company for 5 years previously, and you're experiencing, right? You're dealing with people who are in different parts of the world who don't know how important or critical their language are. And, so it's just, no matter what though, I'm hiring you all first.
Yeah, I'd say the second group, or maybe part of that first group we should be looking to hire, is people who have entered the state I was when I went to the mental hospitals.
Ooh, okay, tell me more.
So a lot of the people that you come across there are so far into a delusion, and I was myself. I was this person that I'm about to describe, deep into the delusion of thinking that we are now starting the better day, like multiple times. I was
actually
at that
love
point
that.
where I was like, oh, it's now, okay, so now we can go forward and like just be happy and joyful and free in the world. And I did that multiple times, and it came crashing down because, first of all, the world is not like that. And I was acting like it was. Second of all, me acting like it was and thinking that it was led to a lot of like not great behavior on my part, because I didn't have anyone else actually propping me up, supporting me, and keeping me in check. So it's just me in a world that didn't exist, and the world that actually existed is the world that we're in now, which, as we know, is not very conducive to great mental health.
No, not so much. Not so much.
Not so much at all.
That's fascinating, because all I'm thinking, right, like the biggest thing this reminds me of, and whether that shift's going to be on a massive scale, is like privilege if you've been able to go to a concert, but right, like being in a concert and that classic song is going, and every single person, they're singing, they're moving, and it just creates this energy, especially then if they're chanting that artist's name, right? That artist is it's gonna be soaking up all that energy. So I envision what you just said, when you have individuals, no matter, whatever state they're in, that are so like, yes, I like, this is happening now, and I have the support and the ability to do this, and the guidance and the bumpers. What that's going to do is generate just a massive amount of positive frequency towards that belief. Because really, right, anything that's happening right now, it's all made up. We're going to be talking about that a lot. Everything is made up. And so when you make up a thing that is generating and headed towards something that is going to actually solve and heal, and you start generating the thoughts and the energy, and then more people start hearing it, and even if you're listening to this and you're like, I'm not there yet, I still don't believe, like 100%, we get that. Just even having that thought and going, okay, well, no matter what, me not believing this, that's generating a negative thought. That negative thought is now within my being that I need to process. And so, right, like, come for the healing and the expansion, but like stay for the sanity and understanding of how to actually understand, like, if you're going to keep generating negativity in your life, right? Our brains are fascinating, but they also don't know that we're not talking about ourselves if we're talking about somebody. So if you're talking about somebody in a negative, harmful way, your brain's going download. Oh, that's how we think about ourselves. Okay, let me show you more experiences as to why that belief is true. And so the more then we believe into those beliefs, creates more of the energy, which then becomes more of our values and our lifestyle. So I love that call out, no matter what, right? Those are our people. The people who are in the delusion state right now. Hi, we know them. Like that's us, and we're in that like breakdown or breakthrough moment. I personally feel that.
Yeah, and I should definitely clarify that it's. Actually, I have a lot to clarify. So after stating that people in a delusional state entering a psych ward are the people we would hire for the most important job ever, I should clarify that in that state, in that delusional state, I saw countless people during my time in those facilities that were entering in that state being subdued. With medication and the general atmosphere of being like locked in a place that you didn't sign up for, subdued mentally back into the baseline, like, okay, life, I have to function and survive, and then they slowly build a little bit before they leave those facilities back into like, okay, I can actually function as a human. Where they're at when they leave is oftentimes a little bit, actually I'd say it's probably mostly worse than when they hit the baseline inside the hospital. Worse in terms of they're more back into like current societal thinking, because they know, okay, that's how I'm going to get out of here, that's how I'm going to survive. It's like right. They brainwash themselves. I did it. You keep in the back of your mind what you knew going in there and what you saw in there, and you keep it in the back of your mind, and you're like, okay, that is coming. And I feel like so many people that leave the facilities, they're like, I can't wait for that to happen. But usually most people don't have the privilege that I had. We've talked a lot about privileges on this podcast so far, and we will continue that. One of the privileges I had was leaving those facilities without having to get right back to work, without having to figure out my survival. Like I've given a lot of crap to my support system, which was almost essentially just completely my mom and partially some of my other family members, like my dad and my stepmom, my siblings, and some friends. Um, Beyond that, I felt very isolated, but that's for another story. Yeah, the privilege was that I had these people helping me survive when I couldn't. I wouldn't have been able to like make it as far as I have in a thriving sense if it weren't for that. So that support system has enabled me to leave these facilities. Last one was a long time ago, but every time I left, I was able to maintain that, like, that's the world that I want. This isn't it. I'm going to go try to make that happen. And most people leave and they're like, okay, well, I can't do anything about it. That's bigger than me. And they are hopeless on the fact. But it's in their minds. They know of something greater because they actually experienced it. Regardless of it being a delusion, they experienced that mind state at least.
Right.
They didn't
Yes.
experience the world of the better day, but they experienced the mind state of the better day. I can share
Different
I've
state.
experienced that.
Wow. Yeah. That's it's giving like DMT kind of vibes, or
yeah,
like
it's
mushrooms,
absolutely like
things that like
hallucinogenic experience.
hallucinogenics, that take you outside of what this physical realm is. And yeah, if you don't have a support system, if you're not ready for these things, that's where so many problems can also happen when individuals take hallucinogens and get stuck and things like that. Like, that's no joke.
Right.
These are fun things to do, but we're playing with things that we don't even really know what's going on. Like, I think the biggest outcome of all of this is there is so much more to this reality than we have been conditioned to believe. There's so much more to our existence and our beings as humans. There's so much more miraculous things that I couldn't even appreciate as miraculous because I had no resounding hope for anything. I was the cog in the machine. I was the wheel. It was me just burning more and more and breaking every moment of every day. And it's just when you do, and you have the ability to feel a tiny remnant of hope after never feeling it and going, okay, so now the work starts, and it's going to take a lot of efforting, and it's going to be a grueling task at the get-go here because of the state of things and how people are so desperate and desiring of change. But right, like what you mentioned earlier, as soon as a person could start talking about that, you're going to immediately get, oh, well, that's not possible, or that's never going to happen. And you're like, yeah, absolutely. Now with that attitude, literally, like if you truly believe nothing is going to change for the better, guess what? Nothing is going to change for the better for you. But that doesn't mean, like, right now, I'm unsubscribing from the idea that the whole collective has to be on board for this to shift, because at the end of the day, it's not like the whole collective is making decisions for the earth right now. And like I can hear people getting maybe a little upset and frazzled or triggered when I said, like, no, I would definitely not wait for a unified vote. Like we will be selecting the most appropriate people to be making really huge, large scale decisions and changes that go against this current society structure. And I can hear that as triggering, to be like, well, who are you to select these people or make these changes? And what we were just talking about right before we got on, because you and I are both sharing some fears about being like real content creators here, and not just content creators, but vocalizing truths that have to come out, that need to be heard, to have consciousness be awoken in a lot faster and larger scale, because we are at that 0 point. That it is now is that time. We are in the most present timeline that possibly could. All time is happening at once, and somehow, right, this right now is the most present timeline. And now what I've had to accept with all of this, and what kept me from going too dark, getting too deep and too dark, not only the fact of just knowing that it doesn't have to be this way and that this is very real, that change can happen. But what first got me there was the acceptance that everything is exactly as it ought to be for the greatest change that we're about to see. And that was as the saying goes, a hard pill to swallow, because that would be accepting what everything is happening from we know what negative energy, everything that is happening in the world, that we send love and ease and peace out to those spaces, but we're not going to keep generating that same. We acknowledge that things are existing, but we also acknowledge that we cannot keep talking about it and thinking that we're just going to magically get better. So that was really challenging for me to accept, by me saying that I accept that every single thing that is happening in the world is exactly as it ought to be. I know that comes with a flood of how could you possibly say that? How could you say that the death and destruction, the turmoil and the war? By me going through, I've been, finally hitting some levels of meditation and quieting down the 1,000 thought streams to allow other thoughts to come in. A great song quote, if you're only thinking about thoughts, that's all the thoughts you're going to be thinking about. So like by pausing that thought stream, I allowed this openness and anger. I allowed the emotions to come out in this acceptance. And so then what helped me move past and go, okay, change is possible. Because at what point in time and history have we ever been able to be as technologically connected and the world be so on fire that things are coming out, real, finally, truth facts? Like the most mind-blowing to me, aggressive language there, but literally like the CIA person coming out and going, yes, aliens are real. Like, yes. And yet we look back at media and they portray people wearing metal foil caps as lunatics, as crazy people. They've been doing that for crazy people, for witches, for all of these things. All of these things are real to some varying level degree. Now, humanity as a whole, society, up until this point, I do believe would not have been ready for all of these things. At this point, though, it's kind of like, well, buckle up because it's coming. It's happening. Mm-hmm. The change that everyone is feeling, but they have no idea what actually is there. There's about to be so much more mystery and magic that comes into this realm, and it will be the unexplainable that has to now be explained. And there are parties who are not super jazzed about all these things because they've been able to keep certain things not only hidden or completely stigmatized, to the point that we are all fighting each other and calling each other crazy and making each other feel so othered and alone that we're not actually even seeing the strings that are being pulled. But we're both here to say, hi, we're awake now. We've cut the strings. The rug is no longer being able to be pulled out from under us. It's like zombie training. Yeah? We're now in training on how to actually survive this current society, thrive in it, and then create a whole new one that provides actual opportunity and the ability for someone to find purpose.
I think the one that like stands out, probably the most triggering thing that you said, so I can't get it off my mind, it's like in the front of my mind, that everything has happened and is happening as it ought to. I do have something to say about it, and I can kind of harp on it a little bit.
Let's hear it.
So I would agree to an extent. I think that everything has happened as it ought to, but there's a because. And it's because movement towards the better day, this movement that we're working on, our efforts haven't been fruitful enough to cut off that all those bad things that are happening, the war, the destruction, the pain, death, turmoil, sorrow, all the bad things that are happening that we can all agree, like, I wouldn't want that to happen to me, And any sane, I'm going to call it, person would agree that they don't want that to happen to others either. But they are happening, and to say that they ought to have happened to be where we are now, I guess my stance is that they have happened, and we should move on from that. With that in mind, with those experiences held dearly, not in a way that we enjoy or like, but held closely and almost like a fire. And I feel, honestly, that is probably the most important thing that can come from all the negative experiences that we've all had so far, is the fire to ignite our positive trajectory away from that. Because we can all agree, obviously you included, that we wouldn't have chosen those things to happen.
Yeah, it did not have to be like this at all.
That's kind of what I'm trying to say.
To that point, though, so say there was these two options, there was these two tracks, which there is never just the two, and it's very dichotomous, black and white thinking. But say, like, at the dawn of time, it was like, hey, all this amazing, magical things could happen on this reality. Capitalism. I feel like those are like the two things that have happened. So it was kind of like, and it also hasn't always been like this. I mean, it's been the downfall for the last 5,000 years. But I'm also like, this side quest is like everything that we possibly know. Like, I truly believe that everyone is a little bit right and a lot of it wrong on everything. So even our documentation of historical events and understandings, like, no. Like, it's there's just so many falsified, and like even our knowledge set, right? Like, like I say that, like, we're only as intelligent as the information that is accessible to the collective. But what if the information that's accessible to the collective isn't actually rooted in truth and accuracy? And what if that's because we actually don't even know what truth and accuracy is? What if, we've had to create calm in the chaos, and science had to come to start understanding and be like, how are we on this rock flying through space? But like, are we? I actually, like, I cheer on flat earthers. I used to like truly not understand and make fun and do all the things that every other human that as soon as I said that is going to start thinking about it. But here's what I say about it. Like, yes, I don't believe that the earth is flat, but I also don't think it's that the most absurd thing to go, you're right. We've gone out into space and we've done all these things, and all our science is based on these things. But again, if the science isn't even based on the real things and what we've just been allowed to know up to this point, so that all of our heads didn't explode, because those who, right, I've been in the delusion sense, and you know that audience very well. But there's a reason. Not only is society not created to nurture these individuals, but there's also a reason that when somebody starts having so much access to additional data centers and they don't have the training nor the support, the brain is, again, it's magical, but it doesn't have the capacity to just be like okay with all these things. When I was thinking about like the CIA person talking and just saying like, yes, aliens are real, but like that was just another Tuesday. Like, that didn't even hit all U.S. news. I was talking to some people in a different state about it, and they're like, what? That was happening. Like, all suppression done on purpose. But again, like, there are things that are happening that it's just like, we're so exhausted. We're so traumatized. We're so burnt out with all of the things that are happening that literally an alien could actually come down and be like, hi, I'm an alien, and we'd be like, who's that joker in the suit? Let me try to find the seam on this video, and then let me make memes about it and just prove again that this isn't real. It's like, yeah, I agree, things didn't have to be this way. And so like when I'm actually feel like I'm doubly down on things when they took courses that the way that they had to take, because I believe from my own personal life, I live by the moment to moment that every single thing that's happening is for is for me. And I can believe that now because I have a secure relationship with my intuition and spirit. And so I know that after time and time tested over and over and over again, that every single decision, everything I'm saying, everything I'm doing, except when I'm in flow, I'm checking in. I'm not asking for permission. I'm going, hey, counsel, are these the things? Is this the right things that I need to be doing and thinking about and moving towards? And by doing that, I had to, okay, for example, what we've talked about in my past, the domestic violence experience that I had in June of 2020. My whole brain after that in the healing was like, well, that's absurd for me to have just experienced. And it's so absurd that other people are experiencing this absurdity. That's completely be solvable. Like, it's not a, anywho. But like looking back at that, my brain would start spinning and go, why did that happen? Why did that happen to me? And so the more I was asking, but with a wanting to truly have a better understanding, because that wasn't the only trauma thing that happened in my life. That's just like the pinnacle that like made the aha moment go off. But up to that point, it was still like, why are these things? That's victim mentality that comes out of that. It's like, why are these things happening to me? And that's where you can do shadow work and really start to unpack those things. And that's how you start having mindset shifts. But using that mind, like using what we're saying here, is I doubled down in the understanding that every single thing that happened in my life, from the moment I was born to this moment right now that we're talking, is exactly how it had to go within the realms of the timeline options that I had at any given time, right? Like, you have multiple choices. That's like a type of free will. You have access to these timelines that are like in this present moment, let's just say, in your person 0 point, but you're still being guided through or to or away from certain things. It's the actions that come. It's when we're not listening, when we don't listen to spirit, when we don't listen to our intuition, when we don't have that relationship. That's where like more turmoil and explosions and things happen. And so when I say everything has happened exactly as it ought to have had for my life, I believe that because of where I am mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. And it doesn't mean any of it was okay. None of the things that I experienced that were traumatizing were okay. It's not okay for anybody to experiencing it. It's the society that's happening right now that is fixable. It's solvable. But I had to. That was, I believe it now just to my core. But at that time period, I had to lean into that, or else my sanity would spiral. Because otherwise, what the heck was the point of all of these things? What is the point of all of the things that are happening if they don't indeed have a point that maybe we're just not here at this moment to know or to figure out? So there's such a balance between this faith and analytical healing that like come together. And so I know it is a harsh thing to say because of the state of everything that is in, but change hasn't happened yet. So it clearly isn't as worse, the worst days that it possibly could be, right? We're getting to total earth destruction. Like that's the inevitable. No matter what, if we keep going at the rate we're going, everyone is not going to make it out alive. And it is coming much sooner than I think anybody really wants to believe or understand. It's just kind of like, let's just keep roboting through this life. Everything is fine. No, everything is not fine. So it's either total destruction of the earth, which then all humans and any other life that potentially could have come and used this as a nexus, that like where we're headed towards in the better day. Either then the individual will just crumble under the weight of societal pressures and expectations and the inability to actually having to purchase things in general, but having to buy basic needs for themselves and their family and their pets. So either we're going to then have our own demise and then the earth's going to follow, or there's this other way to do this. And if we can all unifiably, it's a new word we're going with, if we can accept that everything that has happened albeit atrocious, but everything that has happened up until this point had happened. We can't change it, first and foremost. That's not how time travel works in this experience right now, but you can't change it. So we accept it, we learn from those experiences, and then we go, okay, what's next? What's different here? But if we stay in this zone, if we just keep going and going like, oh, the world's on fire, but it's fine. What is the other thing? What would you then say if everything wasn't exactly how it was supposed to be for us to have this nexus change? What would you actually say all the purpose of this is to what we can talk about now?
So first of all, I love that you had the chance to say all that.
Facts.
Because
Thanks.
yeah, you're welcome. Secondly, I honestly agree, like for an individual, like myself, same boat as you, everything that's happened to me, there was no like other way I could have gone about it or changed anything. And I've taken all the experiences, and I've also had that moment where I was like, okay, it all happened. I've even had moments where I was like, good thing that terrible thing happened to me, or I wouldn't be here in this moment that I'm in now. And I've done that multiple times. And I do those more negative experiences should be used. It's like taking your experiences and learning from them. If you don't take the negative experiences and learn from them, then they happen again, type thing. But further than that, taking other people's negative experiences and learning from them also, so that we can alleviate some of the excess things that could happen to us in addition.
Yes.
But yeah, I just want to say that before answering your question.
Yeah, okay, so clarity with that. So I would say, like, to reframe it, it would be if everything up until this point wasn't supposed to happen. I think the word here is like ought to or supposed to. So if everything wasn't supposed to happen exactly as it's already happened in this timeline, then how can you explain the tragedies, the turmoil, the pain, the suffering? How would you respond, like, to someone going, okay, well, if it's not happening exactly as it's supposed to happen, then why is it happening? I guess is a better question.
Okay, that is clear. Yeah, if it's not supposed to be happening, then why is it happening? Honestly, well, first thing that comes to my mind is I don't oppose what you're saying. That's the first thing that comes to mind. And
I love that.
So how can we expand on that? How can I expand on that? I'll go back to something that I learned as a kid. My mom always taught me that if the bad things that happen and the good things are happening so that worse things don't happen. She would say, like, oh, you see how you missed that red light, for example, on your way to school and you were 5 minutes late. But if you would have made that red light, it's possible that through that red light was like a terrible accident that you could have gotten in.
Oh, I love that. Don't love that, but yes.
Yeah. So it's like the bad things that have happened to us have happened almost like it feels unbearable, but most people realize that it could be worse, could have been worse, and could be worse into the future. So it's like it feels unbearable, but technically it's kind of a little bit bearable for some. Like in the moments that it's not bearable at all. Like we would rather not be there, a lot of us. But when you move past it and get on the good side of it in the future, and you're like looking back on it, you're like, I made it through that, and it's not so bad right now. So it's like, was that bearable or not? Like, kind of a little bit, technically speaking. So it's like we're going through these very negative things that no one would want to happen to them, nor anyone else. Unless, we'll leave the rest of that for another conversation. So these negative things that no one would want to happen to themselves, and no sane person would wish upon even their worst enemy, but they are happening. And I really hesitate to say it. I feel like you were very much more brave with saying it than I'm being. But it's like it happened so that we can take it and we can learn from it, really.
I agree.
And use it. And use it.
Yes. Yeah. Like, actually, like what you were saying, right? Not everybody is needing to experience the same peril. If somebody goes, I experienced this is what I took from this, and here's how to, like, here's support so that you don't also have to experience it to learn it. If we're sharing,
right.
Hey, here are all these things that we're actually learning from this, not this is just the constant expectation that it's just going to be like, you know, I truly see the better day. Like, I also coined it as like the world with no war. Like, I truly believe that it is possible.
Yeah.
You know, we're going to have our naysayers, but I really appreciate your mom's thought process on that, because I actually used that. It like jogged my mind as you were saying that. I was like, oh yeah, I actually used that with individuals that I'm coaching or mentoring. Like, say we're in the car and the classic is like road rage. It's that just, I gotta get to exactly where I get to now, even if we're not in a rush. Like, that's a conditioned state that can definitely be deconditioned and healed out of, because no matter what, that is just affecting you and whoever else is in the car. Like, if you're yelling at somebody, they can't hear you, you're just hurting yourself. And so the more you stay stuck on the fact that that person might have cut you off, and you also, side quest, we forget that we have also made all of those similar mistakes, and yet we forget that in the moment. I do, and it's like, you know, if there's somebody in front of us, they're going too slow. If there's somebody behind us, they're coming up too fast. It's like the person that always will complain about the weather, whether it's hot or cold or somewhere in between. Yeah. So what I then say, road rage opportunity happens, the choice is made to like dive deeper into it, then what I can offer, because it's not helpful to be like, hey, calm the up down, like it's fine, we're not in a rush. Like, matching the level is never going to be helpful. So offering well, I usually say if somebody's going really fast, I'm like, maybe they had a poop. I literally say that all the time. Like, if somebody cut me off or they're doing something, I'm like, you know what? I've been there. If you have to poop, whew. So like offering the like humanizing, because we're so disconnected, right? Being in metal vehicles away from people, we're disconnected from that individual. And so say that person needed to go, and you could be like, actually, like, you know what? By us not immediately going, we might have missed a car accident. Maybe we just passed one, and maybe that's like timing wise. And so what Spirit very much tells me consistently and constantly is, just because it doesn't seem like ease and peace does not mean that we are not on the highest timeline. And that, by me accepting that, as well as that everything has happened exactly as it needed to, so that this change can actually like full come in and people can be ready for it all. That's how I believe it, because even though I have healed burnout and I am now in that maintenance period because of life, same with anxiety and depression, but just because I am experiencing this new level of healing and new level of self-love and self-worth does not mean that I'm not still currently experiencing some very intense changes and triggering energy and experiencing capitalism like everybody else is. And what I come back to, and why I check in often, and I'm like, is this still the thing that needs to be happening? Because this is painful. Like, healing is not like butterflies and rainbows. Like, there's pieces of that, but connecting to spirit and living authentically in this timeline, in this day and age, working towards the better day, yeah, it does not feel like butterflies and rainbows right now. It feels like push pins and scorpion tails. But that is where I am taking it. Here's the faith. Here's what I have been learning all this last year of what faith means for me. And if I'm getting the message that just because I am not sitting on a yacht in the middle of the ocean right this second doesn't mean that all of these things that I've been generating are not coming. Everything is timing. And so timing wise adds a whole nother layer. I do want to say with that, I do believe that again, this didn't have to be like this existence did not have to be. That's where like people came in, knew how to play the game, and started playing it really, really well. There are additional spices from other realms, from other spirits that come in that also want to play this game and want to keep it exactly how it is, because it's benefiting some people, and by benefiting,
like
it feels like, well, which we know, right? We know that the disparity, that there are individuals who are experiencing just the most extremities of wealth, and then the individuals who literally are unable to scrounge up a few pennies to feed themselves or their children or their animals or whatnot. So that's where we're at. Like that's the most bananas thing of all. So if it doesn't have to be just like this absurdity, then wake me up from the dream, because I'm tired of being in it. Unsubscribe, my friend. But wowzers.
Well, that disparity that you described is really like core in that we're not on the same team. Like no, everyone has not joined the same team. Like has not signed up for the game, being on the same team.
Agreed.
In that, I feel like that is the core of the whole issue, and why it does have to be how it is right now, because of that. Like, while we're not understanding that everyone matters as much as us and we matter as much as everyone else, while that understanding is lacking, there's no way that we could not have this. Like, that disparity is also, it's not just like the wealth thing, it's also like the people born with no say in a certain part of the world that is in war versus born at a certain part of the world which is like highly protected from war by their military. And that disparity is same thing. Like, it comes from people not realizing that we're all on the same team.
Exactly.
And while we don't realize it, that's going to continue happening.
I want to be on your team, Aaron.
Yeah, I want to be on your team, Phoenix. And I want to be on everyone's team. I want them to be on our team.
Yeah,
and
agreed.
I want us to be on their team.
All right, well, we have covered the most today. This was an incredible one. I'm really grateful that we did get to have some space to really start talking, and like why we're doing the things that we're doing. So thank you all so much for tuning in, for listening, for watching. We're so grateful for your time and your space and all the things happening, real life. So thank you so much for being here, and we are going to continue to paint the broader picture of the better day, and our wonderful, incredible visionary Aaron here is going to give us and provide us the new language for us to actually start envisioning what this could be. So thank you all so much. Find that ease and peace. Take your deep breaths, and we will talk to you soon. Bye, y'all. Love to you all.
Bye.
Love you, friend.
Love you. Thank you, incredible host. You need a title like incredible visionary. So.
Oh, I'll take that. Bye.